Hello, everybody. I hope you are well wherever you are in the world. I am Sara, your host, and I am recording from Spain, España. And by the time I've recorded this episode, it would have been week number 3 at mum and dad's. So, just for a little bit of context, my hometown where I've been born and raised is called Benidorm. Many Europeans, mostly Brits, will know of my hometown. If you know, you know. So, Benidorm has a microclimate. All of this region just has beautiful weather year round. Now, I'm currently celebrating that October has literally felt like late August, September, kind of like late summer months where the weather's just so nice. It's warm outside, you having the loveliest swims, sunny every day, a few rains here and there, but very mild. And I'm saying that because it's amazing to have come from Australian winter to this weather. However, hello, global warming. So today, the day I'm recording this episode is the 25th of October, and we are literally having 30-degree days every day. Like, this is supposed to be the start of winter. And again, we do have a very mild winter here, um, but this is next level. So anyway, I am complaining about global warming, but I'm not complaining about landing here at this time because, I can't really change the weather. So I am embracing it. And it has been super healing. Let me just say that. It has been really, really good to be able to just come and find my own routine of walking along the beach every morning and, just really loving. I'm a sun lizard, like I thrive in summer. So yeah, it has been very healing. Anyway, so there's a little introduction on Benidorm, my hometown. And with that, and the reason why I was mentioning the Brits is because Benidorm is very well known by Northern Europe in general for this weather. And also, it's almost like everyone has their own little colony from back home, like Norwegians have it and Dutch people have it. And the Brits definitely have a colony of its own. It's called the English Square. And it's literally all run and visited by British people. So it is a very interesting social experiment if you ever do visit. So since landing in Spain, my days have really consisted of not having a plan and soaking up the nice weather when there's nice weather and a lot of family time, which has been so, so nice. Really good. And it's the first trip I've done back home to Spain in the 7 years I've lived in Australia, where I just have so much time, no rush to just really operate like a day-to-day, agenda here and not have a rush and a million things to do and a million people to see. And, that's a bit of a dramatic exaggeration, not a million people to see, but a lot of people to see that are really excited to catch up and whatnot. And now I've got all this time to really soak it up. So that is what I am doing. And that's a bit of an update into my life. And it probably explains my skin color at the moment because I don't think many people expected for me to be coming to Spanish winter and being this brown. So anyway, that's that. In today's podcast, I wanted to bring a concept, a belief system that will explain a lot of the language that I may use often in our podcast episodes, and also the things that have really helped me navigate the messy middle. This is just one of them. And for anyone that knows me, they know I rant about this topic. And so changed my life and the way I think in more ways than I realize. So I'm not going to keep on going on this tangent. Basically, what I'm here to talk about is manifesting. And yes, okay, that might have already made you switch off and be like, I don't want to listen to this episode, but please hear me out because it is something that has so much power and I can't reinforce this enough. I'll also be bringing a bit of my personal story to explain how this has helped because, again, oversharer right here. And so, what would this be without me sharing my own journey in life? So, a couple years back, I was feeling very stuck. Probably the doubts and things that further down the line led to my recent breakup. At the time, it wasn't even a question that I wanted to be with this person. So I was just trying to find ways to work out a few of the things that were maybe causing a bit of discrepancy, basically. And so I got chatting to a friend that was living overseas who might be on the podcast very soon. And I won't reveal too much because it's not guaranteed, even though I'm going to chase her with this mic on our trip coming up soon. So, anyway, this friend, really good girlfriend, had been traveling around Europe and North Africa for a few months, whatever, however long. And so we hadn't been chatting much. And so I think one day we were texting and I maybe voiced a bit of my concerns and she was like, let's chat. And we ended up having this really cool chat. This moment in time was actually not a couple years ago. This was last year. Oh my gosh, literally a year ago. November 2024. So if you have listened to episode number 1, which I'll link in the show notes, I explain a bit of the events that happened from that point in time until now in 2025. So give it a listen because it'll give you more context to really understand what I'm talking about. At that time, November 2024, I had chosen to leave the house, the rental I was living in with my partner. And it was basically because of mold toxicity that I had been suffering for however long. But only in those months leading up to this moment, it really was clear that it was really affecting my health. So I'd done some testing and really was time to jump on a treatment plan and detoxing. And so I took a bit of a leap of faith and I was like, I need to leave this house. This is making me sick. And I just felt this resistance with this home that I had loved for years. I just felt like I had to change. And so I removed myself from the home and continued with my relationship. And in that period of time, I decided to go from Margaret River to Perth and stay at a family home there and really just see what I was going to do and just have a bit of time to start the treatment and whatnot. Anyway, I'm ranting on. So one of these nights, I was feeling very lonely and it might have been week 1 of me being in Perth. And I was going to the office and that was lovely, but, just didn't have my group of girlfriends and friends that I knew and that I felt really supported, in my day to day in Margaret River. And so we end up having a really long FaceTime, this friend and I, and we both just love the deep chats. And in this conversation, she brought up this platform that I had been paying for, I think maybe it'd been a year. And for anyone who might have or hasn't heard of it, it's called To Be Magnetic. So this is a paid platform. I think it's about 30 AUD a month. And it's all about manifesting and really tapping into your core authentic self and really breaking down blocks and stigmas and limiting beliefs that really stop you from living your happiest, most authentic life. So I had been a listener of their podcast, which is a free resource that I'll also link in the show notes. And I loved every single chat, everything that they posted about. I was like, yes, I just felt a dose of inspiration after every single episode. And so, yeah, I guess a year before that, somewhere along 2023, this same friend had introduced me to it because she had been doing it for years. I started with a podcast and then decided to start paying for this membership. But it was one of those things that I probably didn't have a very strong meditation practice. I wasn't really giving myself a lot of solo time to think and journal. And I was just in that hustling mode that didn't really give the app any space for me to really tap into it. So again, we're in November 2024 and we're having this really cool FaceTime, catching up on all her adventures in life. And then she brings it up. And a huge thing for me at that time, again, having been in a long-term relationship and being 32 and really having all these doubts about motherhood and what my future kind of looked like, and if my aspirations of becoming a mum would happen. And I guess that biological clock that kind of starts ticking internally for women in terms of motherhood. Like, I felt it, and it felt like I had to have a life plan and I had to have, a structure in place to make that happen. And I'm not saying that you don't need to think about it, but I think I was coming about it in a very fearful way and really overthinking. Like, it felt like that was consuming my whole brain. Am I going to be a mum? When am I going to be a mum? Should I freeze my eggs? Are we going to have a baby together? Does he want to have a baby? And all these questions felt like at that point in my life, they were coming all at once. And, I just want to shine light on that and my mindset around it, because it has shifted over time. But at the time, it all felt very real. And I know these questions come to so many women in their early 30s, and that feeling of that pressure imposed on our fertility window is something to be aware of. And it can manifest in very different ways to everybody. That was just my experience at that point in time. Anyway, so that was just a little brackets to explain where my mind was at that time. So, back to the chat with this friend, as I'm kind of sharing my thoughts and emotions with her, and how I just felt really tangled in my mind with all these questions and couldn't just relax about the topic. She then at some point brought in the To Be Magnetic app again, and how she had been doing it religiously, and she was just sharing her experience, not really to do with my situation, but how it was helping her. And I can't really remember what challenge was going on at the time, but she was sharing about the pings and the tests and the things that were coming up for her, and how she had been manifesting a few things. So in that chat, I was like, okay, I need to do something to just relax my mind. Like, I know I'm not going to get the answer to all these questions overnight, but I kind of just want to not think about it. And it also happened that with my girlfriends, it almost felt like everyone around me was having the same concerns. And so naturally, say we were just walking to get a coffee, they kind of came up. And of course, we're in that age group where you kind of are thinking about those things, but my mind just was really holding on to all of these ideas. And so the thing was that I had been listening to the Expanded podcast, which is the To Be Magnetic podcast, its own brand name. And the moment she kind of, brought that back into the chat, I was like, okay, I'm going to get into it. I am paying this membership, let's do this. And obviously, this is not something that you are going to see like a clear result overnight. Like, it doesn't work like that. But the main thing that it started to help me with was really kind of pointing a mirror back into myself and really just start working on things about my belief system and the way I think and old patterns and general things to do with my life that then shaped the way I saw things. So, the best way I think to describe this was that it was making me self reflect on all sorts of things, even like your relationship with money, your dreams and aspirations. Like, it had nothing to do with motherhood, but there was something in it that was just bringing understanding and perspective with oneself. And I guess it helped to stop looking outward and more inward. And so, quite quickly, that constant worry was slowly fading. Now, I need to insert another bit of context to this because it kind of happened at that time when we're having this FaceTime on a Saturday night. And so, in all of our woo woo spirituality kind of chats, I tell this friend that I would love to see a psychic. Of course, like I was coming from a full control mode. I need to have answers. And this is literally before I start doing any to be magnetic stuff. It's literally on that Saturday night as I'm voicing it to her. And she's like, have you ever seen a psychic? And I was like, no, have you? And she was like, well, actually, friends of hers gifted her a voucher to see someone for her birthday. And she thought it was quite a interesting experience. Like, yeah, she thought it was good. Nothing, revealing, but she thought it was good. And so I looked up this woman's availability, and it turned out she was available on the Sunday, the following day. And I was like, perfect. I just need a little bit more extra juice to keep coming. And so I had this session with a psychic, which was the first time I ever had a session with a psychic. And, she was a very normal woman, a mum, I think, of 3. And she just did this psychic work in her own time. And that's why she had a random availability at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, which was so random. But, I do trust that things happen for a reason. And so in this chat, again, I started talking about all these worries, and immediately she was like, okay, let's just rewind. And I believe she would have, classic questions that a therapist or a counselor may ask about your past that are going to bring up things, from way back that are still presenting themselves today. And so she did. And in that, again, the mirror was, rather than being pointed at this partner, it was kind of just pointed towards me. And all in all, she was like, do you want to be a mum now? Like, is that something you want to be doing now? And I was like, no. And what about in the next year? And I was like, no. And, I suddenly had been able to detach from all these societal or external inputs of what others may have been doing and really tapping into myself. That was it. All I had to do was come back to self and really listen to my body. Is this something I want? Or am I just thinking that it's what I need to be doing and planning and controlling? And, if you are someone who believes in energetics in any kind of way, the more we try to control something and hold on to ideas, we're kind of putting I believe, some kind of energetic block for things to happen, And, now we're going to talk about To Be Magnetic and the work that came from it. And it has so much to do with this. So I wrap up this conversation with a psychic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all my worries are gone. I remember calling my partner and being like, I love you so much and we are good. I am no longer worrying about this. And he was like, wow, this chick is just crazy. And honestly, it felt a bit like I was crazy. But, just someone had to wake me up. I needed to be shaken out of my control mindset and be like, you are good. You can wait. You don't need to plan this and over control this. And that was it. That was that. So, thanks to this friend, I had suddenly really unblocked this thing that was taking up so much mental load and had introduced me again to this tool that would then become so, so valuable for me without knowing. And so, without going too much into the talks and things that To Be Magnetic was presenting at the time, because I basically can't remember. The main thing, again, it was looking inward and really unblocking limiting beliefs and, our own patterns that don't allow you to even believe in possibilities and outcomes and dreams that you have, thinking, oh, I don't deserve this, I'm not good enough, I will never have this. And all of those beliefs do affect the energetics and what we are able to draw in and welcome in our lives, also known as the law of attraction. And so from that moment on, and it's crazy to now be talking about this a year, literally from the moment I started this work, that it just feels so full circle. Because manifesting, I guess, for me, had always been this thing that you kind of just envision. Often people do vision boards and collages and they write in the journals their dreams and aspirations, and that's great. But there's an element missing there. So, in order for that vision to happen, there needs to be some kind of aligned action that step by step by step is opening you to receive and is kind of letting everything unfold the way it's meant to be. The moment combined with this eye-opening moment of I'm not ready to be a mum, and then starting to do this work, I started really, really letting go of control, really coming back to self and being like, I'm okay. I'm okay right now. There's no need to stress and rush with anything in life. We all first need to look inwards before waiting for the other person to do it for us. And that was literally the exercise I was being pushed to do naturally. I was choosing to do it. The moment I started doing To Be Magnetic challenges, the way they operate is basically there's a set of meditations and journal prompts in what they call challenges, which go through the seasons. I can't remember which one I was doing at the time, but more recently it's been a money challenge. And it's been all about your relationship with money and really helping you unblock and manifest whatever it is you're calling in regards to work, money, and that kind of abundance. A few of the keywords that To Be Magnetic generally uses to refer to terms in the work of manifestation that I probably will refer to and use in my episodes. And so why not give a bit of context on these? The very first word that I'm going to bring into today is expanders. From my understanding, and please refer to all the To Be Magnetic content to really learn more about this. This is just my interpretation and how I've seen it in the year that I've been doing this and listening to them, is the people that basically inspire you in ways such as, it can be their personality, their lifestyle, their work, whatever it is. You basically look at them not from a jealousy perspective, but more like an admiration perspective. How cool would it be if I had this? That's kind of making your own self question and think of that possibility. Now, for many, that might come with a limiting belief, like I was saying before. And so these people just show you ways in which they live, they operate, they act, they are, that kind of plant a little seed of expansion within. So when one surrounds themselves by someone who's an expander, you might leave that chat feeling super buzzed and, kind of high on life because their energy is just magnetic, I guess, in a way. And that's in the case, for example, of personality-wise. Now, say it's someone who has a great work-life balance and you look up to their situation being like, wouldn't that be good? That person, in a way, and obviously there's many factors that may have been helping or affecting these people in that way. Overall, you are getting a taste somehow of what things could look like if. And so that kind of mindset where you're seeing a world of possibilities and really feeling inspired and almost like motivated to take some kind of action, those people are expanders. This friend that introduced me to the whole To Be Magnetic thing, she's an expander, right? I was chatting to her and she was kind of just mentioning what was working for her, and that's just one example of many. She's also a great expander money-wise, and she just trusts the process. So in a way, those expanders make you believe in possibilities and make you dream of possibilities. Again, they're expanding you or expanding your subconscious too. Now, the second concept that I love is the word pings. So basically, I think I used it on episode number 1. Pings are kind of like those signs, call it from the universe, from your intuition, from life, that are basically kind of coming in as a ping, an idea, and in a way they're guiding you towards your path, I guess, your more authentic path. With those, there's also tests. And so tests are more situations, more than an idea, that appears for you to really check in and see what path, what option are you going to take that's going to be more aligned with you. So these tests could come up in work, in relationships, in, any kind of decision you're making. And they really make you question, I guess, the right or wrong or the options, right? When you're just a bit torn or at crossroads. Now, a lot of the work that To Be Magnetic does is helping you understand those two concepts when they come up in your life. So when it's a ping, when it's a test, and because all along you're kind of learning about yourself a little bit more. And from my own experience, I just felt more grounded and confident with my intuition. I just allowed way more space for the intuition and the emotional mind rather than the rational. And so that's when I could feel, this is not feeling right. I would love to do this. And it's just really listening to yourself. Obviously, to get to that, often one needs to unblock, which is the other concept that I wanted to talk about today, which that's exactly what To Be Magnetic is doing by listening to their deep imaginings, which are those meditations, by giving you journaling prompts, and by really helping you, again, look inward and unblock anything that's holding you back. So often these are not just things that we believe, but they might have been imposed by family and society and a partner and whatnot. And so they're kind of really ingrained in you. And that's the same thing as if, you go to therapy and your therapist starts asking you about your family dynamics when you were a kid or your childhood. What you are trying to do is unblock that subconscious mind that holds so many of these stories and makes you believe a lot of things, a narrative that may not actually be serving you anymore. In the ebbs and flows of anything in life, right? And that's another thing that they talk about in this program is in that ebb and flow, there's the rock bottoms and the abundance mindset. So the situations I explained in episode number 1 that I just went through a few months ago, where out of a breakup within a month, there was a breakup with work, home, family, friends, collective. Also, let me just reinforce that it was a choice to a degree. So it obviously wasn't forced, but there was things like work, situations happening beyond my control. And so I felt like I had to touch a rock bottom again to then feel expanded and abundant at the end of that journey with whatever was meant to come out of it. And so that was a test, in many ways. And whenever there's that darkness, there's lightness at the other end, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. So again, it's really embracing and understanding and accepting the journey as it comes. It's a river that flows. And so I just love, love, love the power that it's had in helping me unblock and visualize and take actions that help me feel way more grounded and happy with who I am and the decisions I'm making. And it almost, I would say, helps you separate your ideas from the external world. And I think that's what I meant with being grounded or feeling grounded, is that I feel like I can make decisions so confidently without feeling like I'm doubting myself or questioning why I'm doing what I'm doing. All of the decisions that I've made in the past few months, and I'm talking as of recently, have come with such a clear message. Here I am at 33, single, with no intention of freezing my eggs, unemployed, with not really a life plan, and never did I ever think I would say this, but I feel very at peace with my circumstances. As daunting as that might be for many others, it's just my little pill of encouragement for anyone who's deciding big things and steps at this age, that, we all have the power to carve the life we want to live. And it honestly feels really good to be saying this out loud. I'm just realizing now that, it's been so long since I could actually voice anything similar to these feelings. I hope it all makes sense. And I actually would love to know if anyone has done this work. I'm just going to reinforce, I'm not an expert in this. This is just me as a user using this and how it's helped me in my life. And I would love to know if there's any other TBMers out there, because I love having these chats and know what comes up to you and, share a bit of experience. Please get in touch, slide into my DMs. That's a wrap for today. Please let me know if you dive into the To Be Magnetic world, and I will be chatting to you guys again very soon. Thanks so much for listening. Mwah!